O kia ora mai tātou whānau e te whanaunga, tēnā koutou katoa. Like my whanaunga over here, I also hail from a little place called Pouarahi. So basically that's where my heart and soul is. I was really fortunate when I was young. I was a lot younger than my two older brothers. My dad was a gun blade shearer, so he was a bit of a blue-collar boy as well. So mum and dad were always away, so I got to spend a lot of time with my taua. And so my taua is like my grandmother. So as a small child, sitting on the knee in front of the coal range with all the aunties coming around playing euchre and talking about whakapapa and histories and, I remember that. So I got to soak in a lot. So that was really the start of my journey in terms of learning about my cultural heritage, was when I was very, very young. And from that, I actually learned how to cook, because I used to have to go and chop the kindling, stoke the coal range as you did as a kid, but just learn real basic techniques within the kitchen, like mixing the dough for the plum puddings and that for Christmas. And so that sent me on another journey as becoming a qualified chef later on. But as kids, the toys that we had horses, slug guns, fishing rods and knives. So we were always out in the natural environment with the uncles and the older cousins, learning about those techniques and how to hunt and gather, about what mahingakai tikanga meant in the real sense, because it's when you're actually out there with your whanaunga and you're experiencing that stuff within the nature, that's when you start talking and sharing stories. So that was a part of my journey into natural heritage. So I believe there's not only a connection between the built heritage, which Pouhere Taonga are responsible for looking after, and a lot of other groups, but there's also this natural heritage. So that's where my connection with the Department of Conservation came in later on. As a chef by trade, I moved around. I was really fortunate to spend time in places like Antarctica, Australia, where I was another one, was supposed to go over there for a 3-month stint, stayed 3 years. Unfortunately, the stock exchange crashed, came back to New Zealand, couldn't get a job really. And I had a bit of a horse accident. So I'm a horseman as well, because when I was young, we used to ride horses. That was the only form of transport we had. How you got to school, you didn't have bikes, you had horses. And so Rick Toe, who was the original Ngāi Tahu claimant, came up to see my now late father, Ray Harris. They went to school together with Trevor House, and all of them went to school together. They were all on the A team, the claim team. And so I was really fortunate to be able to learn a lot of their experiences in terms of when they were growing up and what they experienced in terms of the deterioration of wetlands, the drainage of water, the work that they had to undergo, the juxtaposition that they had in terms of the discourses between them being Māori and the dissidents that they had to go through in terms of doing the stuff that they didn't actually believe in and actually irked them. So actually going draining a wetland because you needed to get paid, but you knew how important the wetland was in terms of mahingakai. And so a lot of this stuff started to come out and unfold for me. And they put me on the statutory advisory committee for eels when eels first went in the quota management system, which came through the settlement. So I was lucky to sit around the table with the late Trevor House, his upoho was just huge, and Uncle Noel Hyde, who was actually a commercial fisherman who fished not only down in Bluff, but he fished all of the eastern coastline Pegasus Bay as well. So he had all the storying about the changes in the environment and stuff. And we went through a process where we were actually really fortunate to go around and interview all the kaumātua at the time and actually come up with these catch histories. And what that did is it gave us an idea of the deterioration rate, but also the whakaaro, or the discussions that they had, talked about the deterioration of the actual natural environment and what they saw, but actually the mechanisms behind it. So that got me really interested. So what happened then, this is part of my journey, hope I'm not going to bore you, but it does wrap up a little bit in terms of a bit of a key message that I'll give you guys. I didn't go back to university until I was 32. I had to pass 3 papers at 200 level to get into 600 level postgrad, because I'd already done a lot of earlier work and I had a little bit of knowledge. So my mentor at the time pretty much went, well, if you can pass these 3 papers, we'll give you innuendo statement, allow you to do a grad dip postgraduate certificate. So I did that, went to resource management, then did a grad dip, graduated, was really fortunate to get a job in the Bioprotection Centre, which was forced funded at the time. So I was a manager of the Taonga Māori Bioprotection team. And one thing that we did there is we were looking at Māori horticulture. So I got to meet people like Chris Jacob and Richard Walters, and work with people like Steve Ratton, famous ecologist. And I really immersed myself in it. And so that was really good. But what I managed to do is it gave me an idea of a really deeper sense of how we use the whenua, and tying all the stuff up was really, really exciting. So then I thought, Department of Conservation, might want to work there one day. I was a bit jealous that Joseph got that job. So I worked there for quite a while, went to local government. That did my head in because I didn't like the bureaucracy of the Town and Country Planning Acts and the way that they structured themselves. Went back and did Parks, Rec and Tourism, and I ended up doing wildlife management. Then went to Taiposhini Polytech and taught over there. That was a real interesting experience. And then I went to Canterbury University, and then I ended up getting shoulder tapped to land on Doc's door. And so the experiences I had really set me up very, very well in all those life experiences, because it's not just about the qualification you've got. I believe it's about you've actually got to practice the retinga, the practice, and get your hands dirty to be able to experience, and to get that experience to have the good feel of what you're actually doing. It's all very well looking at a blackboard and chalkboard and all that, but actually go out and do it, and then I was shoulder tapped to go into Heritage New Zealand for a couple of years. So that's my journey. But in terms of Heritage New Zealand, I see there's some really great opportunities there. The other thing I was doing at DOC, I was working in the regulatory space. So I would butt heads with all the planners and all the regulatory people and go, actually, no. And I was the pushback. I said, actually, as a treaty partner, you need to do this sort of stuff. And, well, I'll go back and ask the whānau. So I was always trying to go back to the chair and do the right thing. But, people, you get in a lane and that's all you do. But you need to think outside the square, Go and do something different for a while. Get as much experience as you can. Get your hands dirty. Don't hesitate. Put your hand up and go, don't feel comfortable with this. Stop. Okay? So that's a real key. That's the key message that I wanted to give you. So we're doing things at the moment like just ensuring that the relationships that we have with our regulatory partners are really, really smooth, because in the past there's been a few things that have happened, particularly within the taonga recovery space and what's happened with that taonga, and the way that certain people have behaved when they've been on site, which hasn't been culturally sensitive, or they haven't followed tikanga, or they don't have the cultural competency to be able to do that and listen to their cultural monitor. They'll just forge ahead and go, I'm more interested in bullshit, So there is real scope, I believe, over the next couple of years to be able to change people's mindsets and how you can influence the regulatory spaces to be able to get some policies and processes in place, because we know that there are certain acts that are really poorly worded and full of loopholes where you can get different ideas that you can end up having a bit of a ladu, and it's really the strongest person at the end of the day that wins. So that's the other thing. Don't stop. Agree to disagree, but never back off. If you've got something in here that sits in your heart and in your head that you know that's right, make sure you follow it through. Because if you're wrong, and even if you are wrong, it's learning, Learn from that lesson and move forward. And I guess that's probably all I can say. And Pouhere Taonga is a great place to work. It's not only about archaeologists, they employ planners, administrators, IT, legal. Planning is really big, okay? Pouarahi, advisors, built advisors. There's also the Tohu Whenua program, where you take really, really cool sites, get them listed, and they become almost an epicentre for tourism and for recreation, for people to be able to experience the culture and the heritage of that place. Because it's not only about Māori culture, There's a lot of other cultures out there. Chinese culture, there's the gold culture. So there's really, really big scope in there. You don't need to just think you need to be an archaeologist to work at Pouhere Taonga, because there's so many other facets which are in there that you can pick up on. So don't forget that. But whatever path you travel down, always have your say. Kia ora.